Welcome back, everyone. We're glad you're here with us. You know, there are some things you learn in 25 years at the agency that you never expected to learn when you first walked through those doors at Langley. Things that change how you see the world, how you understand humanity's place in it. My name is Michael Torres, and I spent a quarter century in the CIA's Directorate of Science and Technology, working in compartments most people don't even know exist. Tonight, I'm going to tell you about something that's been kept from the public for decades, something that touches the very essence of what it means to be human. You see, during my time analyzing signals intelligence and working with our most classified programs, I discovered that the line between human and non-human isn't as clear as we've been taught to believe. This isn't science fiction. This isn't speculation. This is the quiet truth that a small group of us have carried for years, the weight of knowledge that changes everything you thought you knew about our species, our origins, and our future. So settle in, let your mind drift, and let me take you through a story that spans generations, bloodlines, and the careful documentation of something extraordinary that walks among us every day. Chapter 1. The Langley Revelation. It was the 15th of October, 1997, when I first stepped through the heavy security checkpoint at the headquarters of the Central Intelligence Agency in Langley, Virginia. I was 26 years old, freshly minted with a doctorate in computational biology from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and entirely unprepared for what lay waiting in the subterranean depths of America's most secretive intelligence organization. My badge bore the name Directorate of Science and Technology, but that title would not reveal its true meaning until I descended into Sub-Level 3 for the very first time. The elevator ride down required two separate key cards, a biometric scan and a silent acknowledgement from the guard who stood nearby, his expression unreadable. When the steel doors finally parted, I was greeted by Dr. Sarah Chen, a woman in her early 50s, with silver streaks running through her black hair and eyes that had clearly learned to guard decades' worth of dangerous knowledge. "Welcome to DS&T, Michael," she said, her voice steady but heavy with unspoken weight. "I hope you're ready for a very different kind of science." The hallways down there were unlike the sterile offices upstairs. The air carried a faint hum, as though electricity itself had seeped into the walls. Thick glass windows lined the corridors, revealing laboratories filled with equipment I could not name, and displays showing molecular structures that defied the diagrams in my textbooks. It was science, yes, but a kind of science I had not known could exist. "Your security clearance is top secret SCI, Dr. Chen explained as we approached a heavy door marked Genetic Heritage Project, authorized personnel only. But what you are about to see requires something beyond clearance. It requires an open mind and a strong stomach." She pressed her palm to the scanner, and a soft electronic tone confirmed her identity. With a pneumatic hiss, the reinforced steel door slid open. The room beyond was dim and smelled faintly of paper and ozone. Floor-to-ceiling cabinets lined the walls, but these were not ordinary filing cabinets. Each drawer bore strange alphanumeric codes, their meaning hidden from me. "This is where we keep track of what we call anomalous human variations," Dr. Chen said, pulling out a thick folder labeled AHV77 Alpha. "For the past 50 years, we have been documenting genetic patterns that simply do not fit standard human templates." I felt a chill crawl up my spine as she opened the file. Inside were photographs, medical records, and DNA analyses that made no sense. The genetic sequences contained markers I had never encountered in any human genome database. These individuals, she continued, carry genetic material that appears to have originated from non-terrestrial sources. We are not talking about random mutations or freak anomalies. This is deliberate genetic integration that spans multiple generations. I looked down at the photographs again. The people in them appeared ordinary, families, children, couples. But as Dr. Chen guided my eyes over the data, I began to notice the subtle differences. Eyes fractionally too large for their faces, cheekbones slightly elongated, features that were beautiful in a way that felt both human and alien. How long has the agency known about this? I asked, my voice barely audible. Since 1947, she replied evenly. But the systematic study began in the 1960s, when our technology advanced enough to properly analyze the samples we had been collecting. She led me to a computer terminal and called up a database that made my stomach clench. Thousands of entries filled the screen, family trees stretching across decades, medical histories, birth records, all tied together by one fact. These people carried inexplicable genetic markers. The Genetic Heritage Project, Dr. Chen explained, was established to identify, catalogue, and understand these individuals. Internally, we call them the integrated. They are the living evidence of a blending of human and non-human genetic material. My hands trembled slightly as I scrolled through the entries. Some names were flagged in red: active monitoring, periodic contact, enhanced abilities confirmed. Periodic contact? I asked, unable to keep the disbelief from my voice. Dr. Chen's expression grew even more serious. Many of these families report ongoing visitations. Not abductions in the way you've heard described on the news, but something else, check-ins, as if someone, somewhere, is monitoring the success of a long-term experiment. She opened another file. This one contained medical records that bordered on the impossible. MRI scans revealing brain structures with additional neural pathways. Blood tests showing cellular regeneration far beyond normal human capacity. And IQ scores so high they strained credibility. The children are the most compelling, she said quietly. They show enhanced cognitive abilities, intuitive intelligence, and in some rare cases, what we can only call psionic potential. The words hit me like a blow. Psionic potential, remote viewing, telepathy. These were the things of science fiction, not something I had expected to encounter in a government laboratory. This is why you are here, Michael, Dr. Chen continued. Your expertise in computational biology, combined with your security clearance and psychological profile, makes you uniquely qualified to help us. We need someone who can analyze the genetic data and identify the mechanisms behind this integration. She handed me a secondary badge bearing clearances I had never heard of. Tomorrow, you will come with me to Sublevel 7. That is where we keep the biological samples. As we turned to leave, my gaze drifted to her desk and stopped. Lying there was a personnel file with my own name on it. Inside, I could see genetic test results and a family tree stretching back 4 generations. Dr. Chen, I asked, my throat dry, why are there genetic markers highlighted in my file? She paused at the door and looked back at me with an expression that blended authority and sympathy. Because, Michael, she said softly, your grandmother's maiden name was Delacroix, French-Canadian lineage with Celtic roots. Your maternal grandfather was 1/4 Cherokee. And your blood work from the entrance physical shows markers we have been tracking for 50 years. The room spun. Everything I thought I knew about myself, about my family, about my place in the world, wavered like a mirage. "Welcome to the truth, Michael," she said. "The question is not whether these genetic variations exist. The question is what we do with the knowledge that they are living among us, working alongside us, and, in many cases, protecting us without even knowing what they are." As the door sealed behind us and we rode the elevator back to the surface, I stared at my reflection in the polished steel. For the first time, I truly saw my own features, the slightly elongated fingers, the eyes my friends had always called strangely perceptive, the way I had always seemed to know things without being told. That night, as I lay awake trying to process what I had learned, I realized my life had been divided into two distinct eras: everything before that day in Sub-Level 3 and everything that would follow. The comfortable certainties of my human identity had been shattered, replaced by questions that would haunt me for the next 25 years. But that was only the beginning. Chapter 2, the 1947 connection. 3 weeks into my assignment with the Genetic Heritage Project, Dr. Chen arranged for me to meet someone whose experience went back to the earliest days of the agency. His name was James Whitmore, and at 83 years old, he was not only a living archive, but also a quiet custodian of secrets that spanned generations. He had devoted his entire career to documenting the intelligence community's most sensitive operations. His office was hidden deep underground on Sub-Level 5, behind a door that most staff assumed led to an unremarkable storage closet. "You want to understand where this all began," Whitmore said, easing into his chair with the deliberate movements of a man whose bones carried the weight of decades of classified knowledge. "Then we need to talk about July 8th, 1947. I had expected him to bring up Roswell. After all, that was the touchstone everyone thought they knew. But what he revealed reached far beyond the familiar narrative of a crashed craft. According to Whitmore, the recovery operation that followed was unlike anything the American military had ever conducted before or since. The debris field was enormous, he told me, sliding a manila folder across the desk. Its edges were worn and brittle, as though it had survived half a century of being hidden away. But it wasn't just metal and strange materials they found out there. There were biological remains. My hands trembled as he opened the folder. Inside were photographs so old they were black and white, yet the images were clear enough to freeze me in place. Humanoid figures, small and fragile, were being loaded into military transport vehicles. Their proportions were disturbingly familiar and yet undeniably alien. Small bodies, elongated limbs, and heads that seemed just slightly too large. 3 intact specimens, Whitmore whispered, his voice barely audible, and tissue samples from at least 2 others. Everything was transported under the highest security protocols to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio. I had heard whispers about Wright-Patterson before. Every intelligence officer had. It was where the military supposedly stored its most classified materials. But never had I imagined that included biological remains from 1947. The initial examinations, Whitmore continued, were conducted by a combined team of military physicians and civilian scientists. Dr. Harold Steinberg, Dr. Margaret Liu, and Colonel James Morrison led the autopsy effort. What they discovered changed everything we thought we knew about life on Earth. He handed me another document, this one on official military letterhead. Entire paragraphs were blacked out, but enough text was visible to reveal the shock in the language used by the examining physicians. The beings possessed skeletal structures that were fundamentally humanoid, I read aloud, but with significant variations: enlarged cranial capacity, elongated limbs, and cellular structures engineered for enhanced longevity. and neural efficiency. But here's what really shook them, Whitmore said, leaning forward. When they began analyzing the genetic material they recovered, they found sequences that matched human DNA. Not similar, matched. The implication hit me like a physical blow. If these beings contained human genetic material, then either they had somehow obtained it from us, or we shared a common origin. Neither possibility fit with the accepted understanding of human evolution. The tissue samples were preserved using the best technology available in 1947, Whitmore explained. Frozen storage, chemical preservation, whatever they could manage. Then in 1953, when more advanced analytical techniques became available, they began the first systematic genetic analysis of the recovered materials. He showed me photocopies of laboratory reports from the early 1950s. The handwriting was painstaking and meticulous, primitive by today's standards perhaps, but the precision revealed just how monumental the scientists knew their work to be. Dr. Francis Patterson at Wright-Patterson led the genetic analysis team, Whitmore said. They found 23 chromosome pairs, just like humans, but the sequences themselves showed modifications that shouldn't have been possible with 1947 technology. Or even with 1953 technology. I studied the reports. The genetic material showed deliberate engineering, enhanced neural connectivity, improved cellular regeneration, but the base template was unmistakably human. This is when the agency became directly involved, Whitmore said. In 1954, the CIA established what we called the Biological Assessment Division. Our job was to determine whether these genetic modifications represented a threat or an opportunity. The next set of documents he handed me chronicled the early years of genetic research within the intelligence community. Scientists working in underground laboratories, analyzing tissue samples that didn't officially exist, trying to decode modifications that appeared centuries ahead of contemporary science. By 1957, Whitmore continued, we had identified 17 specific genetic markers in the recovered specimens. Enhanced neural pathways, modified cellular regeneration rates, and what could only be described as latent psionic potential. He produced a chart showing the 17 markers, each carefully annotated with its potential effect on human development. The implications were staggering. The real breakthrough came in 1959, Whitmore said. Dr. Patterson's team discovered that these same genetic markers were appearing in human populations, not in large numbers, but consistently enough to suggest a deliberate pattern. A chill passed through me. The modifications found in the beings weren't isolated to the crash site. They were showing up in living humans. The Appalachian region showed the highest concentration, Whitmore explained. Families with Celtic and Cherokee heritage carried these markers more frequently than other populations. We began discrete monitoring of these families in 1961. Inside the files were family trees stretching back generations, genetic tracking that spanned decades. Children with enhanced cognitive abilities, adults with intuitive intelligence that defied conventional explanation. Many reported unusual experiences, visitations, contact with non-human entities. By the mid-60s, the pattern was undeniable, Whitmore said. These genetic modifications weren't random mutations. They were part of a systematic program ongoing for generations. The beings recovered at Roswell weren't alien invaders, they were something far more complex. He handed me one final document, a memo dated October 12, 1966. Its header read, Genetic Heritage Assessment, Preliminary Conclusions. My blood ran cold as I read the text aloud. Evidence suggests that recovered non-human entities represent an advanced stage of genetic modification using human-based material. The presence of identical markers in human populations indicates an ongoing hybridization program spanning multiple generations. Recommend immediate establishment of comprehensive monitoring protocols for affected bloodlines. That memo led to the creation of the Genetic Heritage Project, Whitmore said softly. Everything you're working on now, all the monitoring and analysis, it all traces back to those first tissue samples from 1947. The creations of the proof and A-Tim-A, Align Bray. I sat there, surrounded by documents that redefined everything I thought I knew about human history. The beings that crashed in New Mexico were not visitors from another world. They were us, altered and enhanced across generations by someone or something, with capabilities beyond our comprehension. The question we've been trying to answer for 50 years, Whitmore said as I stood to leave, isn't where they came from, it's where we're going. Because if the modifications continue at their current rate, the human species will be unrecognizable within another century. That night, I dreamed of underground laboratories and spiraling genetic sequences, rewriting themselves before my eyes. More than that, I dreamed of families unknowingly carrying these modifications, their unusual abilities and experiences, part of a design larger than themselves. The next morning, Dr. Chen would escort me to Sub-Level 7, where the preserved biological samples waited in climate-controlled storage. But that night, all I could think about was my own genetic markers and what they might mean for my future. Chapter 3: Project Lineage. The elevator descended past Sub-Level 7 that morning, down to a floor I had never known existed. Sub-Level 9 housed the agency's most comprehensive genealogical database, a vast, labyrinthine repository of family histories stretching back centuries. Dr. Chen led me through corridors lined with humming servers, their low mechanical thrum like 1,000 whispered secrets, each machine tirelessly processing an ocean of hidden data. In 1962, she began, her voice echoing against the sterile metal walls, the agency established what we called the Family Tracking Initiative. After analyzing genetic patterns from the Roswell specimens for 15 years, we needed to understand how these modifications had spread through human populations. What I saw when we entered the database center stunned me. Entire walls were alive with light, monitors displaying immense family trees branching and intertwining like glowing neural networks. Every connection represented a bloodline, every node a person carrying genetic markers that simply should not exist in nature. Meet Dr. Robert Grayson, Dr. Chen said, introducing me to a man well into his 60s, his sharp eyes revealing decades spent tracing these cryptic genealogical threads. He's been tracking family lineages since the program began. Dr. Grayson summoned a map of the United States onto the central screen. Thousands of colored dots flickered across the country like constellations, with dense clusters forming in two distinct regions, the Appalachian Mountain Range and the Pacific Northwest, he said, his finger circling the glowing concentrations. These areas show the highest presence of what we call integrated genetic markers. This isn't random distribution. It's intentional, very deliberate patterns. I leaned closer, tracing the constellations of dots with my eyes. The concentrations weren't scattered without reason. They followed the curves of mountain ranges, the quiet stretches of river valleys, and pockets of terrain historically isolated from the mainstream flow of American migration. The Cherokee connection revealed itself early on, Dr. Grayson continued. Families with documented Cherokee ancestry displayed these markers at rates nearly 20 times higher than the general population. But it didn't stop there. It wasn't limited to Native American heritage. Another overlay appeared, this time showing Celtic immigration from the 18th and 19th centuries. The correlation was immediate and unmistakable. Areas of dense Celtic settlement mirrored the same genetic marker concentrations. Irish, Scottish, Welsh, Dr. Chen elaborated, particularly families from the Western Highlands and Islands, remote areas where isolation preserved bloodlines across generations. Dr. Grayson opened a file marked Families Classification Alpha. Inside lay hundreds of family histories, each one a tapestry of unusual experiences and uncanny abilities spanning lifetimes. The McLeod family of North Carolina, he said, selecting a case. 7 generations of documented contact experiences. Enhanced intuitive abilities appear again and again, and their children demonstrate cognitive development patterns beyond standard human parameters. Black and white photographs filled the screen, family portraits spanning decades. Once I knew what to look for, the differences became obvious. Eyes fractionally too large, cheekbones sculpted into elegant angles, an almost imperceptible otherworldly quality. The pattern manifests most strongly in childhood, Dr. Grayson said softly. Enhanced pattern recognition, intuitive problem solving, even what can only be described as precognitive abilities. These children frequently report vivid dreams that later prove true. He showed me test results from a 12-year-old girl named Sarah McLeod, evaluated in 1978. Her IQ scores soared off the charts, but the truly astonishing data came from experimental protocols testing extrasensory perception. Her success rates weren't just unusual, they were statistically impossible. The contact experiences follow generational patterns, Dr. Chen added. Parents who report visitations nearly always have children with the same phenomena. It's not learned behavior, it's genetic predisposition. I traced the family tree glowing on the screen, following its delicate lines back through 8 generations. The pattern was stark. The markers didn't fade as normal traits did. If anything, they grew stronger. The O'Brien lineage from Oregon demonstrates similar patterns, Dr. Grayson said, opening another file. Scottish Highland ancestry, settled in the Cascade Mountains in 1876. 5 generations of documented anomalous experiences. Incident reports from the O'Brien family read like science fiction. Members described encounters with tall, luminous beings and children who vanished for hours only to return with knowledge no child should possess. Medical examinations consistently reveal the same physical modifications, Dr. Chen explained. Enhanced neural pathway development, cellular regeneration rates above human norms, skeletal changes suggesting adaptation for different environmental conditions. Another pattern emerged from the files. Many family members gravitated toward intelligence agencies, special operations, or advanced scientific research. This was no coincidence. We began recruiting from marked families in 1968, Dr. Grayson confessed. These individuals displayed extraordinary aptitudes for intelligence work, enhanced pattern recognition, intuitive analysis, even a near supernatural ability to sense deception. The database mapped recruitment patterns across decades. Children from marked families matured into CIA analysts, NSA codebreakers, and covert operatives. Their lineage made them ideal for work requiring skills beyond normal human capacity. The Peterson family of Washington State, Dr. Grayson said, pulling up yet another file. Celtic ancestry maternally, Cherokee paternally. 4 children, all recruited into intelligence agencies between 1975 and 1983. I stared at their photographs, 3 boys and 1 girl, each with high cheekbones, elongated fingers, and eyes that seemed to hold depths of perception far beyond their years. How many marked families are currently under observation? I asked, my voice unsteady. 2,417 family lines in the United States alone, Dr. Chen replied. Approximately 8,000 individuals carrying confirmed genetic markers, and the number grows every year as these modifications continue to manifest. Dr. Grayson projected a chart that chilled me. The data showed exponential growth of marker appearances over the past 50 years. If this trajectory persisted, nearly 10% of the population would bear these modifications within a century. The integration isn't random, Dr. Chen said. It follows patterns suggesting deliberate genetic guidance. Families are being enhanced across generations according to a long-term plan. It's not Khotans excel there. I thought of my own family, French, Canadian, and Cherokee ancestry, the same combination recurring throughout the database. My grandmother's eerie intuition, my grandfather's uncanny ability to read intentions. The most extraordinary cases occur when both parents carry the markers, Dr. Grayson said. Their children display capabilities surpassing anything we've documented. He opened a file labeled Generation Enhancement, Double Marker Offspring. These children exhibited abilities bordering on the supernatural, telepathic communication between siblings, precognition of events days before they occurred, and problem-solving skills that defied explanation. They represent the intended endpoint of the integration process, Dr. Chen whispered. Enhanced humans bridging the gap between what we are and something far more advanced. As I watched the family trees unfurl across centuries of calculated modification, realization hit me. This wasn't mere research. This was the chronicle of humanity's systematic transformation. The question isn't whether the integration is happening, Dr. Chen said as we turned to leave. The question is whether humanity is ready to accept what we're becoming. That night, I called my mother. I asked for every story she remembered about my grandmother's family. Each memory she shared aligned perfectly with the patterns in the database, intuitive abilities, strange dreams, and an unshakable sense that our family was different. Chapter 4: The Children's Program. The week after my introduction to the Family Tracking Initiative, Dr. Chen led me deeper into Sub-Level 9, to an area that required additional clearance and multiple layers of biometric verification. The corridor we walked down hummed with a low mechanical sound, the walls lined with monitors displaying what appeared to be school records, medical histories, and psychological evaluations. The glowing screens painted our faces in shifting hues of blue and green, as though we were passing through some underwater current of data. "This is the most sensitive aspect of our work," she said quietly. There was a new weight in her voice, a gravity that hadn't been there before. The Children's Monitoring Division was established in 1967 when we realized that hybrid genetic markers often manifested most clearly during early childhood development. Inside the main office, she introduced me to Dr. Patricia Morrison, a child psychologist who had spent 3 full decades documenting the development patterns of children from marked families. Her workspace was crowded but meticulously organized. Shelves stacked with educational assessments, charts tracking cognitive milestones, and hundreds of photographs of children whose eyes seemed to hold an awareness far beyond their years. The enhanced cognitive abilities typically emerge between ages 4 and 8, Dr. Morrison explained, opening a tall metal file cabinet filled with carefully labeled case studies. Standardized intelligence testing fails to capture the full scope of their capabilities, so we developed our own assessment protocols. She handed me a folder detailing the case of a 7-year-old named Timothy Chen, evaluated in 1982. His standard IQ test had scored 178, already extraordinary, but the specialized assessments revealed abilities that bordered on the impossible. Pattern recognition skills exceeding adult baselines by over 400%. Problem-solving capabilities suggesting intuitive access to information no child could have logically processed. We work closely with school districts in areas with high concentrations of marked families, Dr. Morrison continued. Guidance counselors, special education coordinators, and gifted program administrators all receive covert training to identify children who display these enhanced characteristics. The collaboration network she described was both vast and carefully disguised. Teachers were trained to recognize certain cognitive patterns without being told what they were truly looking for. Children who demonstrated exceptional abilities were quietly referred to specialized testing programs, masquerading as routine educational assessments. The Appalachian School District Enhancement Program, she said, pulling up a digital map, covers 14 counties across North Carolina, Virginia, and Tennessee. We've been monitoring children in these areas since 1971. The monitoring was comprehensive yet subtle. Routine cognitive tests disguised as placement exams, medical examinations framed as standard school health screenings, psychological evaluations hidden beneath the veneer of gifted and talented program qualifications. How many children are currently under observation? I asked, scanning the files. 2,843 active cases across all participating regions, Dr. Morrison replied calmly. Children between ages 4 and 16 who have demonstrated confirmed enhanced abilities consistent with hybrid genetic markers. Today, Note 7, today. The number staggered me. Nearly 3,000 children being watched and studied without their families' knowledge, their development tracked by professionals in the intelligence community. The psionic potential testing requires the most careful handling, Dr. Morrison explained, opening a heavily restricted folder marked ESP protocol documentation. We conduct these assessments under the guise of creativity and lateral thinking exercises. The protocols she showed me looked like harmless educational games, but they were anything but ordinary card prediction exercises disguised as memory challenges. Remote viewing tests presented as artistic imagination projects. Telepathic communication experiments reframed as team-building activities. The success rates among confirmed hybrid children are remarkable, she said, bringing up a series of statistical charts. Standard human baselines for ESP testing show success rates around 20%, which we attribute to random chance. Hybrid children consistently score between 75 and 92% on identical protocols. The results were astonishing. Children accurately describing images they had never seen, predicting the outcomes of events before they occurred, and sensing the emotions of others without any apparent communication. The most challenging cases involve children whose abilities are so advanced that normal social integration becomes nearly impossible, Dr. Morrison added, her voice softening. These children often experience deep isolation and confusion about their perceptions. She opened another folder labeled Foster Network Integration Program, and a cold realization began to form in my chest. In cases where enhanced children come from families unable to provide appropriate support, or where their abilities create safety concerns, we have arrangements with carefully selected foster families, she said. All foster parents in this network are agency employees with the appropriate clearances and training. The files contained photographs and detailed case studies of children removed from their biological families and placed with CIA operatives trained to handle enhanced individuals. Official documentation cited child welfare concerns, but the underlying reason was always the same: abilities too advanced for a conventional family environment. The foster families receive specialized training in managing enhanced children, Dr. Morrison continued. How to help them develop their abilities safely, how to maintain operational security, and how to prepare them for eventual recruitment into intelligence work. I studied the profiles, noting how every foster parent had decades of experience handling classified operations. These children were not simply being raised, they were being cultivated. Dr. Morrison, I asked, struggling to keep my voice steady, are these children aware they're being monitored? The younger ones think they're simply receiving special attention for their academic abilities, she said. Older children sometimes begin to understand their testing goes beyond normal educational assessment, but they're gradually introduced to the reality of their enhanced nature. She showed me psychological evaluations, describing how hybrid children responded upon learning of their genetic modifications. When presented carefully, most adapted well and even expressed relief, at last, understanding why they had always felt different from their peers. The transition to agency recruitment typically occurs between age 16 and 18, Dr. Morrison said. By that point, most are prepared for careers in intelligence work, scientific research, or military special operations. It was a recruitment pipeline, as comprehensive as it was covert. Children identified through school monitoring programs were funneled into educational pathways designed to shape them into ideal operatives. Their abilities were no accident, they were being refined for use. The ethical considerations are complex, Dr. Morrison admitted, closing the files. We're documenting and guiding the development of enhanced human beings without full informed consent, but we're also providing them environments where their abilities can be understood and properly developed. As we prepared to leave, she handed me a summary report. My hands trembled as I read the projection data. Within 20 years, nearly 15% of new CIA recruits would come from families carrying hybrid genetic markers. The intelligence community was being systematically infused with enhanced individuals. That night, lying awake, I thought of my own childhood, the special testing disguised as gifted assessments, the unusually thorough medical exams, the guidance counselors who nudged me along certain educational paths that had led, inevitably, to the agency. I realized with a jolt that I had been part of this program my entire life, monitored and guided toward a career where my abilities would be recognized and exploited. The realization was both unsettling and oddly clarifying. I had always sensed I was different. Now I knew why. As sleep finally came, I wondered how many of my colleagues had similar stories, how many of us were not simply employees, but products of this silent system. The children's program was not just about documenting hybrid offspring. It was about shaping the very future of intelligence work, ensuring that enhanced individuals were identified, developed, and placed where their abilities would serve national security interests. But a single question haunted me. Was this humanity adapting to a changing world, or preparing for something far more profound than any of us could yet imagine? Chapter 5, Dr. Elena Vasquez and the Hybrid Identification Protocol. 2 months into my work with the Genetic Heritage Project, Dr. Chen arranged for me to meet the scientist who had revolutionized our understanding of hybrid identification. Dr. Elena Vasquez operated 3 levels beneath even the genealogical database, in a labyrinth of laboratories so secure that my previous clearances suddenly seemed trivial. The elevator descended to sub-level 12. When the doors slid open, I was greeted by a sterile environment that radiated clinical precision. The corridors were lined with laboratories, their transparent walls revealing technology that appeared decades ahead of anything I had seen in civilian research. It felt like stepping into a future that existed only for those with the right access. Dr. Vasquez has been with the Human Enhancement Analysis Division since 1984, Dr. Chen explained as we walked through the pristine hallway. She's the one who discovered the 17 genetic markers that allow us to definitively classify hybrid individuals. Inside the innermost laboratory, Dr. Elena Vasquez awaited us. She appeared to be in her early 50s, with silver hair pulled tightly back and eyes so sharp it felt as though she could see past skin and into cellular structures. Her laboratory was a cathedral of advanced science, genetic sequencers humming quietly, microscopes lined in neat rows, and holographic molecular models rotating lazily in the air like constellations of data. The breakthrough came in 1991. She began without any formal greeting, her voice steady and deliberate. We had spent years analyzing tissue samples and family lineages, but we could not establish definitive identification criteria until we developed the Enhanced Genome Analysis Protocol. She led me to a workstation bristling with monitors. Each screen displayed genetic sequences that resembled colorful strands of music written in the language of life. Certain sections glowed in vivid blue. "These 17 markers," she said, gesturing to the highlighted sequences, "appear consistently in every confirmed hybrid. Not approximations, not variations. Exact matches across entirely unrelated bloodlines and generations." Her words carried the weight of something extraordinary. While human genetics is famously variable, these sequences were absolute, unchanging, like fingerprints planted deep within the double helix. It was as though some unseen hand had embedded identical code into diverse human families, using technology far beyond anything our species had yet achieved. "The markers affect multiple biological systems," she continued, activating a holographic model of the human body. Sections of the nervous system, bones, and cellular structures glowed in pulsating light. Neural development, cellular regeneration, skeletal architecture, and something we can only describe as latent psionic pathways. I leaned closer, trying to absorb every detail. These modifications didn't erase what was human. They optimized it, enhanced, not alien. The physical manifestations are subtle but unmistakable, Dr. Vasquez said, opening a digital archive of photographs. Limbs elongated by approximately 10 to 15% over baseline human proportions. Cranial capacity increased by 12 to 18%. The photographs revealed men, women, and children who could have passed for entirely ordinary at first glance. Yet once you knew what to look for, their symmetry, their elegance of proportion, and their strangely compelling presence became obvious. "Eye color is particularly revealing," she continued, shifting the display to a grid of irises. "Conventional colors, but with metallic flecks or unusual depth patterns. Night vision capabilities enhanced by roughly 300% over baseline human levels." Her words struck a personal chord. I remembered childhood nights where I had moved effortlessly in darkness that left my friends stumbling. My mother had brushed it off as an old family trait. Neurological modifications are the most striking, Dr. Vasquez explained, pulling up comparative brain scans. The corpus callosum is enlarged by an average of 22%, enabling enhanced communication between hemispheres. Additional neural pathways develop in regions associated with intuitive processing and pattern recognition. The images showed neural clusters that did not exist in baseline human anatomy, structures resembling tiny extra organs within the brain. Intelligence quotient scores consistently range between 160 and 220, she said. But the real anomaly lies in what we term intuitive intelligence, the ability to recognize patterns and solve problems without conscious reasoning. She showed me test records spanning 3 decades, children who solved complex equations without formal methods, adults who predicted outcomes of intricate scenarios with uncanny accuracy. Their cognitive abilities hovered on the edge of the supernatural. The cellular modifications are equally astonishing, she went on, revealing microscopic images of tissue. Regeneration rates enhanced by roughly 400%. Aging slowed dramatically. We have subjects in their 70s with cellular profiles indistinguishable from individuals in their 40s. It was biology redesigned as though by a master engineer. Based on our current models, she said, calling up a projection chart, approximately 3% of the United States population carries these markers to some degree. That's roughly 9.6 million people. The number took my breath away. Nearly 10 million Americans living among the general population, enhanced beyond human norms, most unaware of their extraordinary inheritance. The frequency is increasing, she said grimly. Children of hybrid parents now express the markers nearly 100% of the time, compared to 50 or 60% in prior generations. At this rate, the markers could dominate within a century and a half. She opened a restricted file, her biometric credentials flashing across the screen. Our most remarkable cases are what we call double marker individuals, children whose parents both carry the full 17 marker sequence. These children displayed abilities that defied scientific categorization, verified telepathic exchanges under controlled conditions, precognitive insights accurate over 90% of the time, problem solving that bypassed logical reasoning entirely, as though they were tapping into some hidden reservoir of knowledge. They may represent the intended endpoint of the enhancement process, Dr. Vasquez said softly. Humans engineered to bridge the gap between what we are now and something far more advanced. A chill swept over me as I realized the implications. If these genetic changes were intentional, someone, or something, had been steering human evolution for decades, perhaps longer. Do they know what they are? I asked, my voice barely steady. In most cases, no, she said. They experience their abilities as family quirks, unusual talents, or unexplained aptitudes. Our identification and classification remain deeply compartmentalized. She displayed psychological profiles, revealing consistent themes, feelings of difference, dreams more vivid than waking life, talents they could not explain. All the while, they were subtly monitored, medical exams disguised as routine, psychological tests hidden in career assessments, and recruitment channels leading them into scientific research or intelligence work. The ethics are complicated, Dr. Vasquez admitted. We're documenting the enhancement of human beings without their consent, yet we may also be witnessing the birth of our species' future. Before I left, She handed me a sealed envelope. "Your markers are unusually strong," she said. 16 of the 17 major indicators, plus secondary modifications seen only in our most advanced subjects. That night, in my apartment, I opened the reports. Every page reshaped my understanding of myself, my night vision, my intuitive leaps, my lifelong sense of otherness. It was all there in strands of genetic code, and for the first time, I felt certain I was part of something vast and deliberate, an ongoing experiment in human potential, orchestrated by intelligence and technology far beyond our own. Chapter 6: Operation Silent Census. 6 months into my work with the Genetic Heritage Project, I was summoned to a briefing that would completely alter my understanding of the scope and purpose behind everything we had been documenting. The meeting was held in a secure conference room on Sublevel 15, deeper inside the agency complex than I had ever been permitted before. Dr. Chen was present, seated quietly at the far end of the table, alongside uniformed officials from multiple branches of the military and intelligence services whom I did not recognize. At the head of the table sat Director William Harrison, a man whose name I knew from internal directories but whom I had never expected to meet in person. Operation Silent Census, Director Harrison began without any preamble, is the systematic identification, cataloguing, and recruitment of enhanced individuals into positions where their abilities can serve national security interests. Creed Frent, Intendu as Avri. He explained that the operation had been running since 1974, coordinating efforts across every major intelligence agency and special operations unit. What I had long believed to be an academic or genetic research initiative was, in reality, a covert recruitment and placement program affecting thousands of individuals across the country. The enhanced cognitive abilities we've documented make these individuals exceptional intelligence officers, said Colonel Rebecca Martinez of the Defense Intelligence Agency. Pattern recognition capabilities exceeding baseline human performance by 300 to 400%, intuitive analysis that lets them reach accurate conclusions even without complete datasets. She presented case studies that dwarfed my previous understanding of hybrid capabilities. There were intelligence officers who could examine satellite imagery and identify concealed threats conventional analysts routinely missed. Interrogation specialists who could detect deception with accuracy, rates approaching 100%. Analysts who consistently predicted enemy actions with timing precision that bordered on the impossible. The psychological profiles are remarkably consistent, added Dr. James Patterson from the Office of Personnel Management. Enhanced emotional regulation, stress tolerance far above baseline human levels, and what can only be described as advanced empathic abilities. The psychological assessment data confirmed that these hybrid individuals possessed emotional intelligence capacities well beyond normal human parameters. They could read micro-expressions, vocal stress cues, and behavioral patterns with such precision that they became natural interrogators, field agents, and analysts. Most importantly, Director Harrison continued, they demonstrate loyalty patterns and ethical frameworks that make them ideal for sensitive operations. Their cognitive enhancements include improved moral reasoning and decision-making under pressure. I studied the recruitment statistics displayed on the secure monitors surrounding the room. Since 1974, Operation Silent Census had successfully identified and recruited over 4,000 enhanced individuals into intelligence and military roles. They served as field operatives, analysts, technical specialists, and senior administrators embedded throughout the national security infrastructure. The recruitment process is meticulously managed, explained Dr. Margaret Foster from Central Intelligence Personnel Security. We identify promising candidates through long-term monitoring programs, guide them through educational pathways, and recruit them through seemingly ordinary hiring processes. The recruitment pipeline was breathtaking in its sophistication. Enhanced individuals were deliberately steered towards specific universities, degree programs, and internships that would position them for careers in intelligence work. By the time they applied for agency positions, their entire educational and professional backgrounds had been quietly shaped to prepare them for their eventual roles. Dr. Torres, Director Harrison said, turning directly toward me for the first time, your own recruitment followed this exact pattern. Doctoral studies at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, specialization in computational biology, security clearance processing that included comprehensive genetic analysis. A cold shock ran through me as I realized what he was implying. Every major decision in my educational and professional life, the scholarship that made MIT possible, the research opportunities that led to my dissertation, the job posting that had brought me to the agency, had not been coincidental. They had been engineered. Your genetic analysis, completed during your entrance processing, revealed 16 of the 17 major hybrid markers. Dr. Chen added, consulting a file I had never seen. Your cognitive assessment scores placed you in the 99th percentile for both pattern recognition and intuitive analysis. I thought back to my childhood, the unusually comprehensive standardized tests, the guidance counselors who had urged me into specialized academic tracks, the inexplicably smooth admissions process for a student from my background. Suddenly, it all made sense. The beauty of the program, Director Harrison said with a faint smile, is that most enhanced individuals never realize they're part of it. They experience their recruitment as natural career development, their abilities as personal talents, their success as the product of hard work. The operation maintained complete deniability by appearing to be nothing more than efficient human resources management. Enhanced individuals were recruited through normal channels, placed into positions that aligned with their capabilities, and promoted based on performance metrics that reflected their genetic advantages. However, Dr. Patterson added, we do provide specialized support for confirmed enhanced personnel, advanced training programs, psychological counseling designed for their unique needs, and career advancement opportunities that utilize their full potential. It's not MADI. This support network was vast yet invisible. Enhanced personnel received training framed as standard professional development. They were quietly assigned to projects requiring their particular abilities. They were moved into leadership positions where their enhancements could have maximum impact. The results speak for themselves, Colonel Martinez said, displaying operational success metrics. Units with high concentrations of enhanced personnel achieve outcomes far exceeding conventional units. These advantages cannot be explained by training or equipment alone. Special operations teams with enhanced members completed missions with casualty rates 70% lower than baseline teams. Intelligence analysis units staffed with hybrid individuals produced accurate assessments at reliability levels normal human analysts could not match. Dr. Torres, Director Harrison said finally, your assignment to the Genetic Heritage Project was never random. We needed someone with both the technical expertise to understand the data and the enhanced cognitive abilities to see the full implications of what we're documenting. I realized then that my entire career, my education, my successes, my placement in this program had been shaped by my genetic heritage. My superior pattern recognition had made me excel at computational biology. My intuitive analysis had helped me see hidden connections. My emotional regulation had allowed me to manage the stresses of working with sensitive information. The question we face now, Director Harrison continued, is how to manage the integration of enhanced individuals as their numbers continue to grow. Current projections indicate that within 50 years, enhanced personnel will make up between 30 and 40% of the intelligence community workforce. The implications were staggering. If genetic modifications continued spreading at their current rate, the intelligence apparatus would soon be dominated by enhanced individuals. The distinction between baseline and enhanced humans would become a central issue of national security planning. We're already seeing enhanced individuals rising into civilian leadership positions, Dr. Foster added. Corporate executives, academic researchers, even political figures. These cognitive advantages create significant competitive edges in every field. Monitoring data confirmed that enhanced individuals were achieving success rates far above statistical norms, often without realizing that their accomplishments stemmed partly from genetic modifications. They were becoming leaders in technology, research, and politics, quietly reshaping society. The ethical implications are immense, Director Harrison admitted. We're managing the careers of people who don't know they're genetically enhanced, guiding them into positions where their abilities serve national interests, and monitoring their progress throughout their lives. As the briefing ended, I was handed a new security clearance, granting me access to operational files I had not known existed. My role in the Genetic Heritage Project was no longer purely analytical. It now included active participation in recruitment and placement decisions. That evening, alone in my apartment, I opened my own personnel file. I saw my entire life reframed through the lens of genetic enhancement and systematic career management. Every opportunity, every success, every choice had been influenced by both my heritage and the agency's interest in my capabilities. The realization was both unsettling and strangely affirming. I had always felt different, always sensed that my abilities set me apart. Now I understood the truth. I was part of something far larger, a quiet, methodical enhancement of human potential that was reshaping not just the intelligence community, but society itself. Chapter 7. The Underground Facilities. 3 weeks after the Operation Silent Sensors briefing, Dr. Chen finally granted me access to Sub-Level 7, the part of the facility she had hinted at on my first day, but kept strictly off-limits. The elevator sank deeper than I thought possible. Past levels I had assumed marked the complex's foundation. With each floor, the air grew heavier, as though we were descending into the Earth's marrow beneath Langley. What you're about to see, Dr. Chen said as the elevator slowed, represents 50 years of medical research and health monitoring devoted to enhanced individuals. The Hybrid Research Wing was established in 1976, when we realized genetic modifications influenced not only cognition, but entire biological systems. When the doors opened, it felt like stepping into another century. Sleek corridors branched in either direction, lined with examination rooms, diagnostic suites, and quiet monitoring stations. The atmosphere was pristine, filtered to hospital-grade sterility. Everything radiated precision, secrecy, and purpose. Dr. Marcus Webb has led medical research here since 1983. Dr. Chen continued as we approached a central station. His longevity studies uncovered some of the most important implications of genetic modification. Dr. Webb appeared to be in his early 60s, his silver hair combed neatly, his movements measured. His office overflowed with charts, medical scans, and decades of classified research compressed into glowing screens. The enhanced require specialized medical monitoring, he began, gesturing to the data surrounding us. Their regeneration rates, immune systems, and aging processes differ fundamentally from baseline humans. Standard protocols simply don't apply. He showed me patient records spanning decades, each one charting a life that defied normal biological limits. Average lifespan projections exceed baseline longevity by 30 to 40 years, he said. We have subjects in their 80s showing cellular aging more consistent with humans in their 50s, cardiovascular systems functioning at levels that defy decades of high-stress intelligence work. It was staggering. These individuals not only lived far longer, but retained cognitive and physical performance well past the point where decline was expected. The modifications hadn't just slowed aging, they had rewritten it. Weekly health assessments are mandatory for all confirmed enhanced personnel, Dr. Webb said as we moved through the examination wing. We monitor cellular regeneration, neurological development, and what we term psionic capacity. Kane, the rooms we passed held advanced diagnostic technology I didn't even recognize. Scanners mapping brain activity in unprecedented detail, instruments measuring cellular behavior at the molecular level, and devices built to detect phenomena absent from any scientific journal I had ever read. The neurological monitoring is particularly critical, Dr. Webb explained, as we entered a chamber lined with brain imaging equipment. Enhanced individuals continue developing new neural pathways throughout their lives, unlike baseline humans whose brain structures stabilize in early adulthood. He displayed a series of brain scans showing neural networks still expanding well into subjects' 60s. This correlates with cognitive abilities improving with age, he said. Where baseline humans typically decline after 60, enhanced individuals show continued improvement in pattern recognition, intuitive analysis, and psionic potential. We reached a section requiring additional biometric checks. A sign on the door read, "Isolation Testing Wing, authorized personnel only." The isolation chambers, Dr. Webb said, allow us to study psionic abilities under controlled conditions. Each chamber resembled a vault, blocking electromagnetic signals and sound. Inside, specialized instruments recorded biological responses and brain activity as subjects attempted psionic tasks. Remote viewing is our most consistently measurable phenomenon, he said, showing me test results collected over the past year. Enhanced individuals accurately describe distant locations, objects, even events, with success rates exceeding 90% under controlled conditions. If you are it was proves to get to. Targets were selected randomly by secure computer systems, yet the accuracy rates defied conventional explanation. It challenged everything I had believed about perception. Telepathic communication between enhanced individuals is another active study, Dr. Webb continued. When we place two subjects in separate isolation chambers, they transmit simple information with accuracy approaching 80%. The ability strengthened between those sharing similar genetic markers and improved with practice. It was communication without words, signals, or technology. But the most remarkable cases, he added quietly, involve precognitive abilities. He opened files documenting predictions ranging from minor equipment failures to major geopolitical shifts, all accurate beyond statistical chance. Subjects described their insights as vivid dreams or intuitive flashes, yet their records spoke for themselves. "How many agency personnel undergo this monitoring?" I asked softly. "Currently, we have 847 confirmed enhanced individuals in active programs," he replied. "That represents roughly 12% of total agency personnel, though we suspect more remain untested. This infrastructure extended far beyond the agency into allied intelligence services and special operations units. Enhanced individuals received specialized healthcare designed not only to maintain their abilities, but to study their evolution. The ethical issues are considerable," Dr. Webb admitted. "We provide care they need, but we're also studying them, often without full informed consent about their genetic origins. Cedid, some of Prosses and Durs in Devey." He showed me psychological evaluations. Some subjects felt relief when learning the truth about their abilities. Others experienced identity crises or deep confusion, especially if told too early. "The optimal time to inform them is after they've built professional identities," he said. "Too early destabilizes them, too late undermines trust." As our tour ended, Dr. Webb handed me a medical monitoring schedule with my name on it. "Your weekly assessments begin next Tuesday," he said. "Enhanced individuals with your genetic configuration often show continued psionic development well into their 30s. That night, alone in my apartment, I tried to process what I had seen. The underground facility was not just a medical center, it was an infrastructure designed to monitor, optimize, and push the boundaries of human evolution. Beyond the medical marvels, the isolation chambers revealed something far deeper, abilities blurring the line between biology, mind, and reality itself. If enhanced individuals could see across distances, communicate without speech, and glimpse the future, then the modifications had altered more than their bodies. They had changed the very nature of human consciousness. As I prepared for my first assessment, I wondered what abilities within me were still undiscovered, and what, exactly, the agency hoped to find. Chapter 8: Contact Protocols. My first weekly medical assessment revealed abilities I had never suspected, but it also introduced me to Dr. Rebecca Sterling, the agency's leading authority on what she called non-conventional contact phenomena. Her office on Sublevel 8 overflowed with files that questioned everything humanity believed about its place in the universe. Enhanced individuals do not simply carry genetic modifications, Dr. Sterling explained during our first meeting. They maintain ongoing relationships with the entities responsible for those modifications. We have been documenting these patterns since 1979. She handed me a thick binder filled with thousands of reports from hybrid families, describing recurring visits from beings they could not identify. The consistency was astonishing, accounts spanning decades and continents, yet echoing the same details. "We call it the checking in phenomenon," Dr. Sterling continued, opening a folder stamped Contact Protocol Documentation. "Enhanced individuals and their families report regular visitations that follow predictable cycles. The entities appear to monitor the development and well-being of their genetic modifications. Reports described beings appearing during quiet hours, often just before dawn, when people hovered between sleeping and waking. Communication was wordless, transmitted directly into the mind rather than spoken aloud. The communication methods are strikingly consistent, Dr. Sterling said, showing me analysis charts compiled from hundreds of reports. Telepathic downloads of information, symbolic imagery to convey complex concepts, emotional impressions that provide reassurance or guidance. The patterns revealed that contact was adapted to each individual's development. Children received emotional support and simple guidance. Adults received complex instructions and insights into their responsibilities. Enhanced individuals often serve as intermediaries, Dr. Sterling added. They facilitate communication between their non-enhanced family members and the visiting entities. Their genetic modifications heighten receptivity to non-conventional communication. This intermediary role was documented repeatedly. Enhanced individuals interpreting telepathic impressions for spouses and children, acting as living conduits between human consciousness and something far more advanced. The Portland incident remains our most significant mass contact case, she said, unlocking a classified file. March 15, 1994, 12 hybrid families in the Portland metropolitan area experienced simultaneous contact over a 3-day period. The file contained interviews with 47 individuals from those families. Every account matched, describing the same phenomena during the same 72-hour window. Shared delusion was impossible, coordinated fabrication even less likely. The families had no prior connection, Dr. Sterling explained. They lived in different neighborhoods, worked in different industries, and shared no social ties. Yet, their descriptions of the contact experience are nearly identical. It began on a Friday evening with vivid, hyper-real dreams. By Saturday morning, multiple family members were experiencing direct telepathic communication while awake. The entities conveyed information about genetic modifications, family lineages, and what they called preparation for increased interaction between species, she said. They also gave enhanced individuals instructions to further develop their abilities. These instructions included meditation to boost telepathic receptivity, exercises to sharpen remote viewing accuracy, and techniques to strengthen emotional regulation, skills that made enhanced individuals unusually effective under pressure. Most significantly, Dr. Sterling added softly, the entities said the genetic modification program was entering a new phase. Enhanced individuals would assume greater responsibilities as intermediaries between human and non-human consciousness. The implications were staggering. If the Portland communications were genuine, enhanced individuals were not simply products of past experiments. They were being prepared for active participation in ongoing interspecies contact. The psychological evaluations from Portland show remarkable consistency, Dr. Sterling continued, flipping through the file. All participants reported a deep sense of purpose and responsibility after the contact. Profiles showed individuals emerging with heightened clarity about their roles, stronger intuitive abilities, and an expanded sense of belonging to a larger plan. How many similar incidents have been documented? I asked. 17 mass contact events since 1986, she replied. They involved a total of 234 enhanced families across 12 states. The frequency and scope of these events have been steadily increasing over the past decade. The pattern pointed to a deliberate, systematic preparation of enhanced individuals. Each event offered guidance tailored to the participant's stage of development. The entities appear to coordinate their efforts, Dr. Sterling said, showing me charts mapping contact across time and geography. Enhanced families receive preparation based on their genetic configurations and their children's developmental stages. Contact often occurred before major career milestones or assignments that exploited their genetic advantages. We have documented contact experiences among agency personnel as well, Dr. Sterling said, opening a restricted file. Enhanced employees often receive guidance about intelligence work, advance warnings of operational risks, and strategic insights that later prove accurate. Reports described operatives receiving telepathic alerts during missions, warnings about security threats, and insights that drove success rates far beyond normal parameters. The entities seem particularly interested in enhanced individuals working in national security, she explained. Their guidance often relates to threats or opportunities our traditional intelligence gathering overlooks. Her words resonated uncomfortably with my own experiences. The vivid dreams, the flashes of intuition guiding my research, they might not be mine alone. According to the protocols, what I had attributed to advanced cognition could actually be ongoing guidance from the entities who had modified me. Are enhanced individuals aware that they're being guided? I asked quietly. Most experience it as heightened intuition or unusually vivid dreams, she said. Only those with the strongest genetic configurations report direct conscious contact. The majority receive guidance through subconscious channels that feel like natural insights. Said OP Induscreen. The system was designed to support enhanced individuals without overwhelming them, integrating information seamlessly into their psychology. The entities seem to understand human consciousness well enough to customize communication for each person's capacity and needs. The long-term implications are profound, Dr. Sterling concluded. If these patterns continue, enhanced individuals will increasingly serve as conscious intermediaries between human and non-human intelligence. Their roles may extend far beyond national security work. As I rose to leave, she handed me a secure recording device. If you experience contact phenomena, she said, record your impressions immediately. Details fade quickly from conscious memory, but the guidance often proves valuable. That evening in my apartment, I reviewed everything I had learned about contact protocols. The vivid dreams, the inexplicable insights, the persistent sense of being guided, all took on a new and unsettling meaning. If the documentation was correct, my genetic modifications came with ongoing support from the entities who had created them. The question was no longer whether contact was real. It was whether I was ready to accept that my abilities were part of an active relationship, not merely inherited traits. Chapter 9. The Breeding Program Evidence. The security clearance upgrade I received after my contact protocol briefing unlocked a level of access I had never imagined. Dr. Chen led me down to sub-level 11, a place I had only heard about in rumors. Even the entrance felt oppressive. 3 separate biometric verifications, fingerprint, retinal scan, and voice pattern, before the reinforced door finally clicked. When it swung open, it revealed a vault lined with metal cabinets and climate-controlled drawers, each labeled with cryptic codes. The air itself seemed heavier, as if the secrets inside carried their own gravity. What you are about to see, Dr. Chen said as the vault door sealed with a hiss, represents the most classified dimension of our work. The Assisted Reproduction Documentation Project has been gathering evidence since 1981 of systematic genetic enhancement conducted through what subjects themselves experience as abduction phenomena. I stared at the shelves. Thick binders, encrypted drives, and tens of thousands of files filled the space. Medical records, psychological evaluations, and physical evidence documented experiences whispered about for decades but never publicly confirmed, missing time, unexplained procedures, genetic changes appearing between generations without natural cause. The correlation between reported abduction experiences and confirmed genetic enhancement is nearly 100%, Dr. Chen continued. Opening a binder stamped in red with the words multi-generational enhancement protocols, families reporting these incidents displayed genetic modifications exceeding natural mutation rates by factors of thousands. The evidence was staggering. I leafed through pages showing surgical alterations performed with technology far beyond current human capability. Genetic analyses revealed modifications appearing overnight in subjects who had previously tested negative. Pregnancy reports described impossible developmental patterns, gestation times, and fetal growth that defied known biology. Dr. Chen shifted our focus to geography. The underground facilities in Nevada and Colorado were identified through surveillance and geological studies conducted between 1985 and 1992, she said, projecting satellite images and penetration scans on the wall. These installations extend several miles beneath the Earth's surface and house medical complexes designed for genetic modification procedures. The images stunned me. The Nevada complex sprawled like an inverted city deep underground with infrastructure no known human engineering could produce. Its energy signatures did not correspond to any conventional power source. Even the equipment visible in scans looked built for non-human physiology. Site 7 in Nevada shows the most activity, Dr. Chen noted, enlarging surveillance sequences gathered over 15 years. We've detected electromagnetic signatures consistent with advanced medical equipment, unusual seismic patterns suggesting large-scale underground operations, and aerial phenomena matching reported abduction incidents in nearby communities. The Colorado installation, Site 12, appeared to specialize in genetic storage and analysis. Electromagnetic readings pointed to massive biological sample vaults and sequencing operations using technology decades beyond our own. The deeper I read, the clearer it became. These were not isolated experiments, but a coordinated infrastructure. Both facilities displayed construction and energy systems designed by intelligence far exceeding our own. The abduction experiences follow highly consistent patterns, Dr. Chen said, opening a folder filled with evaluations from hundreds of subjects. Individuals are taken during very specific developmental windows, precisely when genetic enhancement achieves the greatest effect. The accounts chilled me. People described vivid, dreamlike experiences of being transported, examined, or instructed, then waking with surgical marks they could not explain, or medical imaging showing foreign implants. Children from affected families began reporting these episodes between ages 7 and 9, exactly when genetic modifications were known to manifest. Adults experienced recurring incidents throughout their reproductive years. The multi-generational planning is perhaps the most extraordinary aspect, Dr. Chen added, pulling up digital family trees spanning 8 generations. Each generation receives enhancements building directly on the previous ones. She highlighted the Hayes family of Colorado as the most complete case study. Their records traced back to 1867, long before human science could even detect these changes. Across more than a century, the family had been systematically enhanced. Each new generation displayed stronger cognitive abilities, extended lifespans, and physical capacities far beyond the human baseline. Missing time accounts correlate perfectly with modification events, she said, showing me temporal charts. Subjects report gaps of 4 to 8 hours coinciding with periods when their genetic markers show evidence of recent alteration. Medical exams conducted immediately after such incidents revealed fresh surgical marks, implants, and new genetic signatures absent from prior tests. Dr. Chen opened a folder marked Psychological Impact Reports. Enhanced individuals typically adapt to learning about their experiences, she said. Baseline family members, however, often require extensive counseling. The profiles suggested that enhanced individuals possessed built-in psychological adaptations, enabling them to process memories of procedures that would otherwise be traumatizing. I hesitated before asking, how many agency personnel have documented missing time experiences? 612 confirmed cases among current staff, Dr. Chen replied. Approximately 72% of identified enhanced personnel report incidents aligning with their modification schedules. The number was staggering. Nearly 3/4 of enhanced agency staff had undergone these same procedures, most believing them to be dreams or memory lapses until medical evidence surfaced. The procedures occur with subjects' subconscious consent, Dr. Chen added. Psychological evaluations indicate enhanced individuals instinctively cooperate even when their conscious minds retain no memory. Finally, she opened a section labeled Reproductive Guidance Protocols. The breeding program extends beyond individual modifications, she said. Enhanced individuals report dreams and intuitive guidance about mate selection, pregnancy timing, and child rearing, all designed to maximize genetic transmission. The statistics were precise. Enhanced couples achieved success rates approaching 95% for modified offspring, compared to 50 to 60% when only one parent carried enhancements. Subconscious guidance appeared to influence major life choices, steering individuals toward partners and circumstances that strengthened genetic modifications across generations. As I studied the data, an unsettling realization crept over me. My own romantic choices, career moves, and personal milestones mirrored the patterns in these files. Everything I had believed to be instinct, chance, or personal preference might have been shaped by something far deeper, genetic programming guiding my life along a predetermined path. Do enhanced individuals know this is happening? I asked quietly. Most experience it simply as attraction or intuition, Dr. Chen replied. The guidance works through enhanced emotional intelligence and pattern recognition rather than conscious instruction. That night, back in my apartment, I spread out my medical records and family history beside the program files. Every major decision I had made suddenly looked like part of a larger design. The evidence had shattered my assumptions. It was both disturbing and strangely comforting. The persistent sense that my life followed a hidden plan wasn't delusion. It was the direct outcome of genetic modifications, embedding psychological guidance systems to optimize human potential across generations. As I lay awake, I wondered if the dreams that would come that night were my own memories resurfacing, new instructions being given, or simply the enhanced cognitive abilities already at work inside me. One thing was clear: my existence, and perhaps our entire species, was being shaped by a systematic plan of guided evolution far beyond individual choice. Chapter 10: Enhanced Abilities Documentation. By the third week of my medical monitoring, I received an invitation I could never have imagined. Dr. Webb arranged for me to observe the agency's most classified testing protocols inside the Enhanced Capabilities Assessment Division, hidden deep within Sub-Level 13. The elevator ride felt endless, descending into a part of the complex unlike anything I had ever encountered. It was less like a government facility and more like the secret wing of an elite research university. The testing protocols here represent over 30 years of research into the cognitive abilities of enhanced individuals, explained Dr. Amanda Cross, the division's chief researcher. Her laboratory stretched before us, filled with gleaming monitors, soundproof isolation chambers, and assessment stations that looked more like futuristic lounges than scientific testing areas. Everything was designed to appear inviting and harmless. Subjects sat in comfortable chairs, working through what looked like simple puzzles, computer exercises, and strategy games. Only the dense web of biometric sensors revealed the true depth of the assessments. Remote viewing is our most consistently measurable enhancement, Dr. Cross said as she led me to an observation station above the testing floor. Baseline human populations succeed at about 20% on standard protocols, mostly by random chance. Enhanced individuals, however, score between 80 and 95%. Through a reinforced window, I watched a young woman sit perfectly still, eyes closed, describing a location she had never seen. Her target coordinates had been randomly generated and sealed in an envelope to prevent leaks. Her verbal descriptions, landmarks, structures, even colors were uncannily accurate. Their accuracy extends far beyond visuals, Dr. Cross added, showing me charts drawn from thousands of sessions. Enhanced subjects can describe sounds, scents, emotional atmospheres, even the historical resonance of target locations. They access information that transcends normal sensory perception. The data challenge the very boundaries of science. Enhanced individuals could identify classified installations, predict troop movements, and uncover threats invisible to conventional surveillance. Satellite imagery analysis is one of our most practical applications, Dr. Cross continued, guiding me to a bank of workstations. Screens displayed reconnaissance photos, one set reviewed by conventional analysts, the other by enhanced personnel. Enhanced analysts identify patterns and anomalies invisible to both computers and human experts. The comparative results were staggering. Enhanced individuals consistently spotted camouflaged facilities, detected equipment changes, and predicted enemy activity based on subtle cues no unmodified human could see. Pattern recognition averages 400% above baseline human capability, Dr. Cross said. Most remarkable of all, they recognize these patterns without consciously knowing how. This hinted at deeper processes, intuitive cognition operating beneath awareness. Enhanced individuals assessed complex situations and predicted outcomes without being able to articulate their reasoning. We call it intuitive intelligence gathering, Dr. Cross explained, pulling up operational case studies. Enhanced agents make highly accurate judgments under conditions of incomplete information. Conventional analysts simply miss what these individuals detect with ease. She opened a thick operational file. Agent Sarah Mitchell provides one of our most documented cases. Deployed to Eastern Europe in 1991, she predicted the collapse of several Soviet satellite governments 6 months before conventional analysts saw any instability. Mitchell described her process as feeling the emotional climate of regions she monitored. Her timing and sequence of predictions proved astonishingly precise. The most extraordinary abilities involve what we classify as information acquisition through non-conventional channels, Dr. Cross whispered. Enhanced individuals sometimes know restricted data they could not have accessed by any standard means. Though much of this intelligence remained sealed at classification levels above mine, what I glimpsed was chilling. These individuals were gathering information without any identifiable source. The Psychic Spy Network is our most sensitive deployment, Dr. Cross said at last, opening a file that required fingerprint and retinal verification. Deep cover agents with maximum genetic enhancement operate where traditional intelligence methods fail. This program deployed enhanced individuals in roles that leveraged their cognitive abilities rather than conventional espionage. Their success rates eclipsed standard operations by margins training alone could never explain. Agent David Chen, no relation to Dr. Chen, has been stationed in Beijing since 1989, Dr. Cross revealed, handing me summaries that made my hands tremble. His reports have provided advance warnings of policy shifts, military planning, and strategic initiatives all of our conventional assets failed to detect. Chen described his method as reading the collective consciousness of his targets. His accuracy was beyond anything statistical models could justify. Enhanced agents say their intelligence feels like intuition or unusually vivid dreams, Dr. Cross explained. They cannot explain how they know, but cross-checking consistently validates their information. Psychological profiles revealed a shared trait. These agents had learned to trust their perceptions even when logic gave no reason to do so. Their training emphasized distinguishing genuine insights from noise and building confidence in abilities that defied conscious explanation. How many enhanced agents are active? I asked. 47 deep cover operatives across 12 countries, she replied, each confirmed to possess maximum genetic enhancement for intuitive intelligence and pattern recognition. This network represented the pinnacle of enhanced human capability. These agents lived in ordinary roles while gathering extraordinary information through their altered consciousness. The training protocols are highly specialized, Dr. Cross added, showing me pages of curriculum. We teach them to separate true insights from interference, to organize what they receive through meditation and consciousness expansion exercises. There is and it is not a fear in Shangul One War, side in disdain. Enhanced agents also exhibited remarkable resistance to interrogation. Their psychological profiles include natural protection against coercion, Dr. Cross said. They maintain operational security under pressure with an ease we've never observed before. But the most unsettling revelation came at the end of my tour. In recent years, many enhanced agents have begun reporting contact guidance during deployment, Dr. Cross said, opening files that chilled me. They receive strategic direction through the same telepathic channels documented in civilian contact protocols. Reports described enhanced agents receiving warnings of danger, insights into enemy planning, and tactical instructions that improved their survival rates in high-risk missions. As I prepared to leave, Dr. Cross handed me a sealed envelope. Inside were the results of my own assessments. Your capabilities place you in the 97th percentile for enhanced individuals, she said calmly. With additional training, you could qualify for deployment in the Psychic Spy Network. That evening, alone in my apartment, I studied the documentation. These abilities were not mere curiosities, they were operational advantages. Yet the contact guidance hinted at something deeper. These agents might not be serving only national interests. They could be following the agenda of the very entities who had created them. Chapter 11, The Integration Challenge. My assignment to the Enhanced Capabilities Assessment Division introduced me to Dr. Elizabeth Harper. the agency's chief psychologist specializing in genetic identity integration therapy. Her office, tucked deep on sublevel 10, was unlike any cold government facility I'd seen. Warm lighting, earth-toned walls, and comfortable furniture made it feel more like a counseling center than a covert lab. The psychological challenges facing newly identified enhanced individuals are complex and often unexpected, Dr. Harper said during our first meeting. Learning about one's genetic modifications fundamentally changes how a person views themselves, their family, and their place in society. Her files were immense, stored in secure digital archives. They contained psychological profiles and therapy transcripts of hundreds of agency personnel who had undergone genetic disclosure. While emotional responses varied, clear patterns emerged regardless of an individual's background or role. Identity crisis is the most common initial reaction, she explained, scrolling through a decade's worth of data. Enhanced individuals often question whether their successes come from personal merit or from genetic engineering they never consented to. Many faced what psychologists called an overwhelming imposter syndrome, doubting their achievements and wondering if they owed everything to artificial enhancements. One case stood out. Agent Robert Kim is a representative example, Dr. Harper said, opening a file dated to the year 1995. His record was exceptional: rapid promotions, unparalleled pattern recognition. But when he discovered his enhancements, he spiraled into depression and requested reassignment to a baseline-only division. His evaluation revealed the painful unraveling of a man who had believed his intellect was entirely his own. 6 months of intensive therapy helped him reconcile that his achievements and his genetic modifications could coexist. Family dynamics are equally complicated, Dr. Harper added. Enhanced individuals often have family members without modifications, which creates painful divides. The files confirmed this. Families once close found themselves fractured by genetic disparity. Enhanced individuals felt alienated from relatives who couldn't relate to their abilities. Meanwhile, baseline family members sometimes harbored quiet resentment toward what they saw as unfair advantages. The Chen family illustrates this vividly, she said, opening a case spanning several generations. 3 children, 2 enhanced, 1 baseline. The baseline daughter struggled with psychological trauma upon learning her siblings' success partly came from genetic modification. This revelation led to 2 years of family therapy. The baseline daughter wrestled with feelings of inferiority and exclusion, while her enhanced siblings bore guilt for advantages they never chose and often did not fully understand. To address these challenges, we've implemented peer support networks within the agency, Dr. Harper explained, showing me schedules for weekly group sessions. Shared experiences reduce isolation and promote healthier integration than therapy alone. These groups met in secure conference rooms, organized by genetic profiles and professional roles. Enhanced analysts met separately from enhanced field operatives because their work environments shaped different psychological challenges. The results are promising, she said, citing internal metrics. Peer support reduces psychological dissonance and reinforces that enhancement doesn't diminish personal worth. Romantic relationships proved especially delicate. Dr. Harper showed me files focused on couples. Enhanced individuals in relationships with baseline partners often face trust issues, she noted. Some fear their partners won't understand them. Others worry about power imbalances. The files covered decades of stories, resilience, and heartbreak. Not all couples survived genetic disclosure, but those that did credited joint counseling and open communication. Approximately 68% of enhanced individuals disclosed their status to long-term partners, Dr. Harper shared. Success rates improve greatly when disclosure follows personal identity integration. Disclosure protocols were strict. The process usually took several months and involved therapy for both partners, aiming to preserve trust and prevent trauma. Children add another layer of complexity, she said, opening yet another file. Enhanced parents must decide when and how to reveal their modifications and the possibility of inherited traits to their children. Parenting guidelines helped parents assess their children's readiness for disclosure. Counseling also addressed the potential emergence of enhancements in the next generation. But the most sobering part of our conversation was what Dr. Harper revealed next. Thousands of enhanced individuals remain unaware of their modifications, she said quietly. We monitor and utilize their abilities, but do not disclose unless they show psychological readiness. It's maken de stip, ownhead-like. Many of these undisclosed individuals sensed they were different without knowing why. They reported intuitive insights, unusual cognitive patterns, or recurring dreams, hinting at hidden layers beneath the surface. When disclosure finally happens, I asked softly, how do they react? Anger is the most common initial response, she answered without hesitation, followed closely by confusion. We emphasize that their capabilities have always been part of who they are, enhanced or not. Protocols for managing anger aimed to help them accept the truth without spiraling into self-doubt or resentment. Therapy focused on reaffirming their accomplishments and rebuilding autonomy. As our session ended, Dr. Harper handed me a folder marked with my name. Your integration therapy starts next week, she said gently. Working in this division while undergoing genetic disclosure carries unique psychological stresses. You'll need support. That night, I sat alone with the folder unopened on my desk. The identity questions that had haunted me since learning of my genetic modifications no longer seemed like anomalies. Instead, they were documented steps in a broader psychological journey. The integration challenge extended far beyond individuals. It reached into families, partnerships, and institutions. The support infrastructure needed for the psychological effects of genetic enhancement was vast and growing. As I prepared for my first session, I wondered if the systems in place were enough. Could humanity truly adapt to a future where genetic diversity was common and quietly shaping the world around us? Chapter 12. Global Monitoring Networks. After my clearance upgrade following integration therapy, I gained access to intelligence files revealing the vast global scope of genetic enhancement monitoring. Director Harrison called me to a secure briefing room deep within Sublevel 16. Inside were representatives from allied intelligence agencies, gathered to discuss an operation known as the Global Enhanced Population Assessment Protocol. The monitoring of enhanced individuals goes far beyond the United States, Director Harrison began, as classified maps flickered on surrounding screens. Since 1987, we've maintained agreements with allied nations to share genetic enhancement data and coordinate surveillance. Each representative introduced themselves by first name only, their accents marking them as seasoned officers from Britain, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. The Five Eyes Alliance, once purely for intelligence sharing, had quietly expanded to oversee genetically enhanced populations. The Five Eyes genetic database contains profiles on over 12,000 confirmed enhanced individuals within member nations, said James, the British representative. Since the late 1980s, we've tracked genetic markers, mapped family lineages, and assessed enhanced capabilities together. What struck me was not just the scale, but the intimacy of this data sharing. This was coordinated, cross-national management of a new branch of human evolution. Enhanced individuals traveling between member countries were monitored with precision, every movement, affiliation, and ability logged and exchanged through secure channels. Currently, Australia shows the highest concentration of enhanced individuals per capita, added Margaret from the Australian Intelligence Organisation. About 4.7% of our population carries confirmed markers, compared to roughly 3.1% in the United States. The disparities suggested genetic enhancement did not spread uniformly. Higher concentrations appeared linked to geographic isolation, ethnic lineage, and deep historical factors not yet fully understood. Director Harrison then brought up alarming files about the Russian Federation. Their genetic enhancement program began in 1952, nearly a decade before ours. Russian efforts were aggressive and ethically complex. Their identification methods were invasive, recruitment was forceful, and their use of enhanced individuals was integrated deeply into state functions. Where Western programs masked and compartmentalized, the Russians openly embraced and deployed enhanced operatives in nearly every statecraft aspect. Estimates place enhanced personnel between 18 and 22% of their intelligence and special forces, James said. Their training integrates enhanced individuals fully into standard military education. No secrecy, no stigma. This open approach may explain why Russian enhanced operatives showed fewer signs of psychological strain. In contrast, many of ours struggled with secrecy and alienation. China presents a different challenge, Margaret said, displaying reports from the People's Liberation Army and Ministry of State Security. Their modification techniques likely surpass ours. Chinese files showed enhanced individuals with between 23 and 27 genetic modifications, far above the 17 marker baseline used elsewhere. This indicates a more advanced enhancement stage, Harrison added. This shifts global power dynamics and intelligence parity significantly. If China's enhancements represent a generational leap, existing frameworks won't suffice. The competition was no longer over conventional arms or resources. It was a race to shape humanity's future. Cooperation versus competition is our defining dilemma, James stated. Do we share information to manage enhanced individuals as a collective resource, or hoard discoveries for national advantage? The implications were vast. Cooperation might stabilize global relations and promote ethical progress, but some nations might pursue unilateral gains regardless. Interestingly, Nordic countries chose a different path. Margaret showed documents from Sweden, Norway, and Denmark, nations with limited public acknowledgement of enhancement. Sweden's Enhanced Human Research Institute reports roughly 6% of their population as enhanced, Harrison said. They frame enhancement as part of human diversity, not merely a military asset. This transparency seemed to ease psychological burdens, often seen in secretive programs. Norway's approach was more progressive. Enhanced individuals identified during mandatory national service were offered career paths embracing their abilities. Norway's voluntary model creates more stable, loyal, and productive personnel, James noted. Turning to me, Harrison said, Dr. Torres, you'll analyze global enhancement patterns and advise on long-term strategy. The key question: do enhanced individuals belong to nations or the world? My task was daunting: analyze global data, map capability trends, and forecast how enhanced populations might reshape international relations. Margaret highlighted personnel exchange programs, enhanced individuals temporarily serving with allied agencies, training and collaborating on missions. These exchanges create informal networks transcending national borders, she said. Sometimes these operate beyond official diplomacy. Psychological assessments show enhanced individuals often feel stronger kinship with each other than with their countries, James added. Genetic identity may soon replace national identity. This was profound. As enhanced individuals increase, their loyalties might align more with shared biology than with governments. A new identity based on genetics, not geography, was emerging. Harrison closed with a projection. Within 50 years, enhanced individuals could make up 15 to 20% of the global population. Managing this demographic would demand new governance, possibly beyond traditional nation-states. Later that night, alone with the files spanning decades and continents, the pattern was clear. Genetic enhancement was no longer a national experiment or anomaly. It was a global reality, one poised to redefine humanity itself. Chapter 13: The New Generation. My assignment to analyze global enhancement patterns granted me access to the agency's most advanced research division, directed by Dr. Jennifer Walsh, the Genetic Futures Laboratory on Sublevel 14, specialized in technologies that far surpassed publicly acknowledged science. The traditional approach to genetic enhancement relied on naturally occurring modifications introduced through non-human intervention, Dr. Walsh explained as we walked through sterile laboratories filled with equipment I could barely understand. Beginning in 2003, we developed the ability to replicate and refine these modifications through precise genetic engineering. This facility represented the merging of alien-derived genetic templates with cutting-edge human biotechnology. Here, scientists analyzed the 17 standard genetic markers associated with enhanced traits and pioneered methods to reproduce and improve them through targeted modification. CRISPR-Cas9 gave us the breakthrough, Dr. Walsh continued, gesturing to a device that resembled an alien artifact as much as a genetic editor. We now introduce enhancements directly during embryonic development, bypassing the long waiting period of natural generational change. Her protocols drew on decades of studying DNA from enhanced individuals. Each of the 17 markers had been isolated, duplicated, and tested under strict laboratory conditions to allow seamless integration into developing embryos. The children we've enhanced artificially display capabilities far exceeding those of naturally enhanced individuals, she said, opening a digital file that made me shiver. Their neural pathways develop faster, their cognitive functions mature earlier, and their psionic abilities emerge years ahead of traditional hybrid cases. These children represented an entirely new category of human capability. Their enhancements were more precise, more comprehensive, and significantly more potent than the naturally occurring traits passed through hybrid lineages. Case study Alpha 7 involves twins born in 2007, Dr. Walsh explained, showing charts that looked more like science fiction than clinical research. Enhanced at the embryonic stage, their cognitive abilities exceed naturally enhanced peers by an estimated 200 to 300%. The data was staggering. These twins achieved advanced milestones several years early. By the age of 7, they solved problems at levels typical of adult enhanced operatives. Their pattern recognition skills surpassed those of senior intelligence analysts, and their intuitive abilities bordered on precognition. The true achievement is acceleration, Dr. Walsh said, projecting evolutionary models. Natural enhancement requires multiple generations to reach peak integration. Artificial enhancement achieves it in a single generation. What had once taken centuries now unfolded in decades. Traits that previously required 4 to 6 generations could now manifest in one birth cycle. Telepathic communication begins around the age of 4, she said, showing me test results. Remote viewing exceeds that of adult operatives, and their pattern recognition rivals modern computing systems. It became clear these children were not just more capable, they were evolving beyond all previous limits. Their psychological resilience was astonishing, and they adapted to their powers without the crises that plagued naturally enhanced individuals. The most extraordinary phenomenon is their contact with the entities behind natural genetic enhancement, Dr. Walsh said quietly. Some of these children claim to receive direct guidance from those beings. The revelation was unsettling. Children created entirely in controlled labs were somehow connecting to the same non-human intelligences that had guided natural hybrids for generations. Dr. Walsh, I asked, scanning her files, how many enhanced children are currently under observation? 47 confirmed cases across 3 facilities, she replied. All are children of agency personnel who volunteered for the program between 2004 and 2009. This marked a turning point. The agency was no longer limited to natural hybrid lines. It was actively designing the next generation by modifying its own personnel's offspring. The volunteer process includes rigorous psychological screening and ongoing family support, Dr. Walsh said, handing me documents outlining the ethical framework. Parents must understand their children may surpass them in ways they cannot predict. The ethical implications were profound. These parents were knowingly creating individuals whose capabilities might not be fully controllable. Continuous counseling and support were essential to guide them through the unprecedented challenges of raising such children. Within the next century, Dr. Walsh revealed, artificial enhancement will overtake natural hybridization. We project that enhanced individuals will comprise between 40 and 60% of the global population within 50 to 70 years. This rapid transformation would force a total overhaul of social systems. Schools, governments, and cultural institutions built for baseline humans would fail to meet the needs of these new individuals. Educational systems must evolve for accelerated learning, she said. Governance models must adapt to advanced analytical and intuitive capacities. Even more remarkable were the children's social instincts. Regardless of geography or culture, they seemed to recognize one another and form bonds based on genetic compatibility rather than background. They create their own networks, Dr. Walsh noted. It's almost as if they belong to a new species, defined not by culture, but by shared genetics. Then she shared the most unsettling discovery. Some of the children appear to be developing a collective consciousness, she whispered, opening encrypted files. They share experiences through mechanisms we cannot yet explain, bypassing normal communication entirely. These enhanced children were beginning to operate as a unified intelligence. Their minds seemed linked, allowing instant transmission of knowledge and emotion, a phenomenon humanity had only imagined in speculative fiction. Dr. Walsh, I asked quietly, what happens when their abilities surpass all oversight? We are creating a generation that may redefine civilization itself, she said. The real question is, will humanity be ready for the world they will create? That night, back in my apartment, I pored over the protocols and projections again and again. The implications were undeniable. The next stage of human evolution was no longer theoretical. It was already here, walking, talking, and thinking among us. And the world as we knew it was running out of time to catch up. Chapter 14: Cover-ups and Revelations. By my 4th year working with the Genetic Heritage Project, I had ventured deeper into the agency's hidden machinery than I had ever imagined. Until then, my role had been limited to research and development. I had rarely paused to wonder how our discoveries were managed outside the walls of Langley, or how the world remained mostly unaware of the extraordinary truths we studied. That changed when Director Harrison personally reassigned me to the agency's Information Management Division, a department so discreet that most staff did not even know it existed. This shadow division was led by Dr. Patricia Morse, a woman whose sharp intelligence was matched only by her precision. Her reputation preceded her, meticulous, unsentimental, and, as I would quickly learn, the architect of much of the public narrative surrounding genetic enhancement. Public awareness of enhanced individuals has been carefully managed since 1973, Dr. Morse said during my first formal briefing. She spoke with a calm, almost clinical detachment, as though she were describing a marketing campaign rather than a generational program of influence. Our work preserves a delicate balance. We must prevent public panic while slowly preparing society for eventual disclosure. The Information Management Division operated some of the most sophisticated monitoring systems I had ever seen. Every mention, no matter how obscure, of genetic enhancement, hybrid humans, or related phenomena was tracked across newspapers, magazines, television broadcasts, and digital platforms. Protocols ranged from subtle measures like burying search results to full-scale disinformation campaigns designed to discredit accurate leaks before they could take hold. Entertainment media is our most effective disclosure preparation tool, Dr. Morse explained, as she guided me through the operations center. On the walls, giant displays flickered with data feeds and trending topics. She opened a series of files showing decades of covert collaboration with Hollywood studios, television networks, and major publishing houses. Science fiction gives us the freedom to seed ideas. People accept extraordinary concepts far more easily when they believe them to be fiction. What I saw in those files astonished me. There were records of script consultations, anonymous funding channels, and quiet technical advice supplied to screenwriters and producers. For decades, intelligence agencies had been shaping public narratives about enhanced humans, ensuring they were portrayed plausibly but within boundaries that kept them make-believe. The X-Files television series represents one of our most successful long-term efforts, Dr. Morse said, pulling up production files that made my hands tremble. Across 9 seasons, the show introduced mainstream audiences to the core concepts we needed them to accept: hybrid humans, covert government programs, and the existence of enhanced individuals. The documents revealed how real intelligence community information had been blended into scripts, giving fictional stories a strangely authentic edge. Audiences were not just being entertained, they were being acclimated. Marvel Comics' mutant superhero narratives serve a similar purpose, Dr. Morse added, showing me correspondence between agency liaisons and comic book publishers. Enhanced abilities, genetic modification, the social challenges of integration, all of these topics are explored in a safe, fictional framework. This was no isolated project. Entire decades of pop culture had been quietly shaped by long-term planning, easing society toward acceptance of human genetic diversity and extraordinary capabilities, one blockbuster at a time. But entertainment was only one arm of the strategy. Whistleblower containment represents our most sensitive challenge, Dr. Morse said, leading me into a secure room requiring additional biometric verification. Current and former agency personnel sometimes attempt to reveal classified information. Inside were rows of files, each documenting attempted leaks by both enhanced and baseline staff. The responses ranged from quiet career reassignment and psychological counseling to aggressive campaigns designed to discredit the individual before their claims could gain traction. Dr. Robert Kellerman represents a typical containment case, Dr. Morse explained, opening a file from a 2006 incident. He was a former agency scientist who tried to publish his research on genetic enhancement in peer-reviewed journals. We neutralized the situation through professional discrediting and medical intervention. The documents were brutal in their precision. Coordinated reviews had shredded Kellerman's reputation, legal challenges had blocked his publications, and psychological evaluations had cast doubt on his stability. His findings, true as far as I could tell, had simply disappeared into obscurity. The psychological toll of secrecy is immense, Dr. Morse said quietly, showing me aggregated evaluation data from hundreds of agency employees. Many personnel feel compelled to share what they know with someone, family, friends, or colleagues. We have developed stress management protocols, but the pressure never fully disappears. It was during one such briefing that Director Harrison appeared unexpectedly. His presence was like a sudden drop in temperature. "Dr. Torres," he said, his voice measured but firm, "your evaluations indicate you are under significant stress related to our information management protocols. We need to discuss your long-term assignment options." What followed shifted the ground beneath me. Harrison explained that the agency had developed managed disclosure protocols for selected personnel, programs allowing individuals like me to reveal certain aspects of our work under tightly controlled conditions. Enhanced individuals often feel a powerful urge to share their knowledge, he said. Managed disclosure lets you speak publicly, write papers, give interviews, even make appearances, so long as everything is pre-approved, strategically timed, and presented in a way that furthers our gradual public preparation strategy. He showed me my own psychological profiles. "The personal cost of secrecy has been significant for you," Harrison said quietly. "Public disclosure, even limited, can reduce that burden." His data confirmed it. Enhanced individuals who had participated in the managed disclosure program reported lower stress, better mental health, and a renewed sense of purpose. Yet Harrison's warning was clear. Public disclosure makes you a target. You will face scrutiny, skepticism, and perhaps threats from groups opposed to genetic enhancement. Security and psychological support will be ongoing, but you must understand the personal sacrifice involved. That evening, I sat alone in my apartment with the disclosure protocols spread across my kitchen table. The entertainment files had shown me how the public was being shaped. The whistleblower cases had shown me the destruction awaiting those who stepped outside the lines. Managed disclosure was the only path that offered both truth and protection. But this decision was larger than me. It was about helping society adapt to a future where genetic enhancement was no longer science fiction but accepted reality. Was I prepared to make the sacrifices required for public disclosure, and would my participation genuinely help humanity adjust, or merely tighten the agency's control over the story of our future? The question echoed in my mind long after midnight, refusing to let me sleep. Chapter 15: The Future of Humanity. My decision to take part in the Managed Disclosure Program has led me to this very moment. I sit quietly in my study, 5 years after leaving the agency, reflecting on all that I learned during my time with the Genetic Heritage Project. The burden of knowledge, once nearly unbearable, has grown lighter now that I am permitted to share parts of it. Yet the deepest truths, those that stretch far beyond my own comprehension, remain sealed, protected as if by an invisible barrier. Official projections for the complete integration of enhanced and baseline human populations stretch far beyond my lifetime. Still, for those who know what signs to watch for, the patterns are already visible. Enhanced individuals rise into leadership roles in government, technology, science, and education at rates far beyond statistical probability. Their extraordinary cognitive abilities and intuitive intelligence grant them advantages that become increasingly evident as global challenges demand solutions lying outside traditional human parameters. Within 50 years, enhanced individuals will hold the majority of leadership positions in most advanced societies, Dr. Chen told me during one of our final briefings. This integration will not occur through open conflict or forced replacement, but through natural selection for capabilities that best serve society's needs. This process appears deliberately structured to avoid the catastrophic social disruption that might follow a sudden revelation or dramatic demographic shift. Instead, enhanced individuals gradually step into positions of responsibility. Their genetic advantages manifest not as spectacular displays of power, but as superior performance, quiet, efficient, and nearly invisible to the untrained observer. Perhaps the most significant aspect of their emerging role lies in their function during potential open contact scenarios. Their heightened communication skills, psychological resilience, and intuitive intelligence seem designed to facilitate interaction between baseline humanity and the non-human intelligence that initiated our species' genetic modifications. Enhanced individuals are natural ambassadors, Dr. Sterling explained during one of our detailed contact protocol discussions. Their genetic heritage includes cognitive and psychological adaptations, enabling them to communicate effectively with both human and non-human consciousness. This preparation extends beyond individual abilities. Entire social structures, communication systems, and disclosure protocols are being developed quietly to manage the eventual public acknowledgement of non-human presence and interaction. Enhanced individuals are expected to serve as translators, negotiators, and guides during any future open contact event, a bridge between two forms of intelligence entwined for millennia. Yet the most remarkable aspect of the enhancement program lies not in its audacity, but in its subtlety. This quiet evolution proceeds without fanfare or public awareness. Enhanced individuals live outwardly ordinary lives, pursuing careers, raising families, contributing to communities, while carrying genetic modifications that represent the future of human development. The children I once observed in sterile research environments are now young adults, their extraordinary capacities flowering into achievements that defy expectation. They excel in fields demanding superior pattern recognition, intuitive leaps, and emotional balance. They are becoming the teachers, physicians, scientists, and leaders who will shape the next generation's understanding of what it means to be human. Their influence spreads not through spectacle, but through quiet, consistent example. A teacher whose enhanced empathy helps a struggling student discover a hidden talent. A physician whose pattern recognition skills lead to earlier diagnoses and life-saving treatments. A scientist whose intuitive insights open pathways to discoveries that transform entire disciplines. The psychological challenges of integration, which once seemed daunting during my early research years, now resolve naturally over time. Enhanced individuals develop healthy frameworks for understanding their heritage, often describing their abilities not as artificial intrusions, but as natural talents always within them. Support networks inside the intelligence community, carefully crafted counseling programs, and gradual disclosure strategies have contributed to this stability. Enhanced individuals learn to wield their capabilities effectively while maintaining psychological health and seamless social integration. My own journey of integration has been long, sometimes painful, but ultimately enlightening. Coming to terms with my genetic heritage gave me missing context for so many unexplained experiences. The enhanced pattern recognition that drove my success in computational analysis, the intuitive insights guiding my research decisions, the emotional steadiness that allowed me to handle sensitive information without succumbing to distress. It also illuminated subtler aspects of my life, my attraction to partners with specific traits, my timing of career moves, my persistent sense of purpose that seemed to exceed normal ambition. I came to understand that the genetic modifications act as a kind of internal compass, operating below conscious awareness to guide enhanced individuals toward choices, maximizing their development and contribution to humanity's evolution. The deepest realization of all, however, has been this: enhanced individuals are not separate from humanity. They represent humanity's natural progression toward the capabilities our species will need to survive and thrive in the future. These modifications do not create something alien. Rather, they awaken dormant potential, refining and amplifying qualities already present within the human template. Qualities shaped over thousands of years of interaction between human and non-human intelligence. Enhanced cognition, longer lifespans, psychological resilience, and intuitive intelligence are not replacements for human nature, but expansions of it. Enhanced individuals remain fully human, though endowed with capacities once thought extraordinary. The gradual disclosure process, in which I now play a small part, is preparing society to recognize this genetic diversity within our own species. Entertainment collaborations, carefully managed public discussions, and subtle introduction of enhancement concepts into scientific and academic channels all work together to ready humanity for the truth of our origins and our future. My decision to share this account is my contribution to that preparation. The experiences I have described, the research I participated in, and the knowledge I gained within the Genetic Heritage Project offer a window into developments that will one day touch everyone. Already the truth walks among us. It appears in teachers who intuit their students' needs, doctors whose diagnoses prove uncannily accurate, scientists whose work leads to breakthroughs no one else foresaw, leaders whose decisions are wiser than the information they possessed. These are the enhanced individuals, living quietly, benefiting all of humanity. As I bring this account to a close, I know I have shared only a fraction of what I have learned. The deeper truths about direct human-non-human collaboration, the scale of genetic modification programs, the long-term trajectory of human evolution, remain classified far above my clearance level. Yet, what I can reveal lays a foundation for understanding. Humanity is already changing. Enhanced individuals do not represent an invasion or replacement, but an awakening, a blooming of potential always existing within our genetic heritage. Rest in the knowledge that our evolution proceeds gently, guided by intelligence that understands our species more deeply than we yet understand ourselves. The enhanced individuals among us carry genetic gifts meant not to divide but to uplift, working quietly to build a future where human capability rises to meet human aspiration. Sleep peacefully, knowing this process is not replacement but expansion, not alteration but fulfillment, a steady movement toward what we are capable of becoming. The quiet evolution continues even now, unseen but unstoppable, guided by wisdom that spans generations and a consciousness embracing more than we can yet comprehend, but which leads us gently toward our fuller expression as conscious beings in an infinite universe. Thank you for joining us today. Until next time.